future is Mary Louise King. And I met Mary Louise King at a Three Things. It was the one that was at the red carpet last year, and that was, I think, the first time we met. But I had seen her dozens of times before that at any musical event. You probably, even if you don't know her right now, you've probably seen her and Jim dancing at events if you go to them. And it fascinated me, so that's how she became got on my radar to be a guest even before I met her that day. So I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. I know a lot of her friends are here tonight, and hopefully you guys learn a thing or two also. So please welcome Mary Louise King.
Yay!
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's so nice to look out there and see all my friends. I wanted to have you participate with me for a minute. Could you just put up your arm like this? Yay, good. Okay, now brush it down, and then brush it in. Okay, you just cleaned out your armpits. So when you see me out dancing, you'll see me put my hand up like that. You can just say to the person next to you, say, oh, she's just cleaning out her armpits. So, let's see, I wanted to thank you for letting me share my story, and this is from my perspective. And I was born handicapped, so being able to dance is a really big thing. My toes were turned in, my knees, I was real clumsy. And through this little experience, I actually learned how to be graceful and how to accept grace into my heart and then let it shine out. So that's what my story is going to be about today. My first is about all my struggles. My favorite is, guess what? Dance, right? And my future is that I have a plan of how we're going to keep ourselves out of nursing homes. And it's for me and it's for everybody else, and I'm trying to get it out there. So before I get started, I wanted to tell you a story about trees. In Arizona, they did an experiment on trees. And they put trees in a real special environment with the proper sunlight, water, nutrients in the soil, and all the trees grew up, and when they got to a certain age, they all fell down. And do you know what was missing? Wind. They didn't have any wind. So they didn't have any struggle. They didn't have anything to make them grow strong and put down strong roots. And so that's like a story of my life, how struggle has made me stronger. And I'm going to tell you a lot of struggles that you probably have no idea that I've gone through. As you notice, I always wear pearls. If you know me, I have pearls on. Rarely do I take them off. And an oyster makes a pearl out of a struggle. An irritation comes into the oyster, it then makes nacre around there and makes a beautiful pearl out of it. And that's what we want to do with our struggles, is make something beautiful out of it, and something that would be radiant. So my first struggle, of course, I already told you about, was I had very weak legs and feet. And my mother put me into ballet and tap, but I was really, really clumsy. I did go to an orthopedic surgeon, and he gave me very clumsy shoes to wear and exercises. And so when you're clumsy, you get it in your head that you're clumsy. Every dinner time I would spill my milk. I mean, I just was very clumsy, and I labeled myself that. And then in second grade, I had a real blow to myself that happened to my life. My dad started to drink, my mom started to cry, and my little brother became very angry. And that same year, I received a real blow to my face. My brother had gotten out of the car. He was mad at me. He slammed the car door right into my face and broke my front tooth. Now this was a permanent tooth, and I was going to have to keep it for the rest of my life. And they didn't do anything with them back then except cap them silver. Now, no one had braces. This was not very popular. And I grew my bangs way down into and I didn't smile or anything like that. But my grandma said that I could accept grace into my heart, and then that would shine out, and people would see that. They might see my silver tooth first, but then they would see what was really in my heart. And I actually believed her about that. And that's how I got through until 10th grade, whenever my teeth were all being capped. They were actually all, 4 of them were being capped, drilled down to those little stubs if you've ever had something like that done. and I had temporary caps on, and I was playing girls basketball. Going down the court, I was a guard, and another girl charged into me, knocked all those caps out on the floor, and knocked the tooth that we had preserved for all those years out on the floor. We scooped it up, put it in ice. This was in Pittsburgh, Squirrel Hill, and I went to a dentist, and he did a root canal on his hand, shoved it back up into my mouth, and then put it was like a cast on it. And so I went to the Snowball with a cast on my teeth and all those caps put up in there. The other thing that happened in 10th grade was my mom and dad opened a store. And this store is still in existence, if you can believe it. It's been in existence in the same location for 52 years. And my mom is still running the store, working 56 hours a week, and she's 91 years old. But this also changed my life a little bit because my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then all of a sudden she's always working. But because of that struggle, it helped me to get out on my own a little bit. And by the end of high school, I was much more sure of myself. And I went to college, and guess where I went? West Virginia University. Because don't Pennsylvanians go there? I loved it there. And so I have been in West Virginia for 50 years. I started when I was 17, I'm 67 now. And while I was at WVU, I really developed my personality. You know, whenever you can smile and you don't have a silver tooth, it makes a really, really big difference. And I was runner-up for Miss Mountaineer in 1975. Now wait a minute, that's a really special game. That is when WVU played Pitt, our arch rival Pitt. Tony Dorsett was on the Pittsburgh team. We were not chosen to win. He was famous. Everybody knew he was a great player. We beat Pitt. And I was on the 50-yard line for that game. My mom and dad had 50-yard line front row seats. And I was one of 3 for Miss Mountaineer that was out on the field. I did not get it, but I still had a great time. We tore down the goalpost. You remember when you were allowed to do stuff like that? That was really a lot of fun. So after college, I came to Charleston. I got married. I worked at Bowl Furniture because my degree is actually in interior design, and I raised 2 sons. And life was really great. I love Charleston, West Virginia. It's a really good place to live. When I was 49, I had an accident, and I was up in British Columbia, and I was bending down to get something in a lower drawer, and my husband pinched my butt, and I went, woo, like that, and 10 out of 10 pain. I mean, I was in so much pain. I had ruptured a disc in British Columbia, L5S1. The pain was 10 out of 10. I had had my babies naturally. This pain exceeded that pain. But while I was up there, they put me on pain meds and brought me home. I went to Dr. Igniatis in St. Mary's, and I begged him to let me try to get over this myself, even though I couldn't sleep. I don't know how I made it through, to tell you the truth. And he said that that I should be doing yoga and Pilates and some type of weight training. And so I wasn't really able to go into a normal class, so I joined the exercise classes for older adults. And they were sitting in a chair and lifting weights, and I did their senior exercise classes on the floor, and they would call me the child, because I was only about 49 at the time. And they were so nice to me, just so nice. I don't know how I would have made it without all these older adults that came into my life. And so I certified to be a yoga teacher, a Pilates teacher. I'm licensed to teach silver sneakers, which is this class that people sit in a chair and lift weights. And actually, you probably can't see my muscles, but I have muscles, and I got it from that senior exercise class. So anyway, I started getting really strong. I mean, I was really getting strong, and I started thinking, well, what could I do to pay it forward? What could I do to help somebody else? I wanted to use my life to help somebody else. So I thought about a time when I had a near-death experience. After my second child was born, back then you were allowed to stay in the hospital for a while. They put me in a room, and my uterus is supposed to get real tight after you have a baby, but mine had gotten loose and I was bleeding to death. And a nurse came into the room and she said, "Oh honey, I remember this part. Oh honey, you don't have any pulse." And the next thing I remembered was I was up like in a corner looking at myself from up there, and I saw all these people come into my room and they were pounding on my stomach, like just pounding, like I'm talking about a lot of people. And then the next thing I remember was I was very, very cold. I was freezing cold and I was receiving blood. So I have a very rare kind of blood. It's called O negative. So I am a universal donor, and that means I can give to anybody, but it's very difficult to find blood for me. So I decided I would start giving my blood. This would be another thing I could pay it forward. And so I went to the American Red Cross at Kanawha City, and they had donor chairs there. And the way they're set up is your legs are out like this, and you're sitting up in a chair, and you have your arm out like this giving blood. Well, I started to not feel good, and what was happening was I was having a vasovagal response, which meant that my body panicked and all my blood went to my internal organs and left my brain. And then I started having seizures, and I was without brain blood for 2.5 minutes. If it would have been 3 minutes, I would have had brain damage. 4 minutes, I would have been dead. And the nurse she wasn't a nurse, the person who was helping me ran over to next door, got a nurse. When I woke up, she was calling 911. I mean, I had a terrible, terrible headache, but I was conscious and able to make decisions for myself. So the paramedics came, and they all wanted me to go to the hospital, and I said, "I can't go to the hospital. Is my husband coming?" And they said, "Yes, he's on his way." And I said, "I have to wait." They said, "Oh no, you have to go to the hospital." I said, "I can't go because if I would make that decision, I might be spending money, and then I might get in really a lot of trouble if I spent this money." So I wanted to make sure that my husband would give me permission to go to the hospital. Well, when he did get there, he came through all those paramedics, and he was furious. He was furious that I didn't go to the hospital, and here I was trying to please him. So he traveled with me behind the ambulance to the hospital. But when he was at the hospital, he couldn't comfort me because he was his mother's power of attorney, medical power of attorney. And they were all saying that she was very sick and maybe dying. You know, he was talking to his family, so he didn't get to hold me or comfort me in any way. And so after that was like so traumatic to me. You cannot imagine how traumatic it was, and just very overwhelming. And I just would like to say one thing, that if you are a husband, be sure to continue to court your wife and don't ignore her. And you know, whenever you squeeze an orange, you expect to get orange juice out. Well, when my husband was pressured, what came out was things that, how I felt about it, I didn't feel safe. And so I started to go into a caterpillar, like how a caterpillar goes into a cocoon. I sort of went, I guess, to make myself feel safe. And it was a very dark night for 3 years actually. And it was very transforming though, in another way. And very gentle people came into my life, and they just sort of made a space for me. And then in 2014, this would be 3 years later, I actually filed for divorce. Now you might think that this is not kind thing to do, but whenever I filed for divorce, I thought it was the kindest thing I could do. I thought I was being kind to myself, and that I was being kind to my husband because we could count our losses. And I thought, it might give us a little bit of a chance to have some space where, he would maybe go back and treat me how I was when we were dating and before marriage and children. But anyway, we decided we might try ballroom dance, because that's a couple thing. When you're dancing, you're looking at each other and stuff. We thought, that'd be a really nice thing to do. So, and the thing, he didn't want to get a divorce, even though I had filed, so I rescinded that. And so I started thinking, I love seeing people dance. When they dance, they look so like they love each other, and there's such connection and everything. And what I learned about taking ballroom dance lessons was that as long as you keep your legs going and to the rhythm, you can make lots of mistakes. And this is like how life is. As long as you keep on going, you can make mistakes and people look over it. And the two people, when they're dancing, they cover for each other. And they don't like pick on it if someone has made a mistake. And it's all about connection and not perfection. And you'll love this, girls. For the follower, the leader's responsibility is to keep them safe, comfortable, and entertained. And if there is a mistake made, it's always the leader's fault because of the bad lead. You know what I mean? So I love that. I was thrilled with dance. It became my very favorite thing to do was to dance. But my husband didn't like it very well, and he wouldn't even go to the dance lessons with me. And so in 2015, I filed for divorce again, and I was married 37 years and was engaged for 3 years. So I was with him for 40 years. After the divorce, I struggled with loneliness a lot. I mean, if you've ever been through a divorce, it's very, very difficult. And my dance teacher started to fill that little bit of loneliness for me. I would go and I would forget all about my problems while I was learning how to dance. And I really did start a new life. And so I took probably maybe 9 months of private lessons, and my dance teacher said, why don't you try a group lesson? And I said, oh, I couldn't do that. I don't know anybody. Who would I, he says, well, I'll be there. You can just dance with me. So the first group lesson that I went to, I met Jim Wallace, who became my dance partner. And he was a member of 7 dance clubs. There's 7 dance clubs here in Charleston. You don't know anything about it, but there really is 7 dance clubs. And so I made all new friends, and I found out that I actually really fit into this new dance community. It's like I was just transformed and a new life has started. So in 2016, I opened my business, which is Mary Louise King, LLC, and Charleston WV Dance. And the Mary Louise King LLC is where I teach yoga, Pilates, silver sneakers. I do personal training. And the Charleston WV Dance is where I teach dance lessons along with Jim. And I made, okay, when you get a divorce, half your stuff is gone, right? Well, my basement was completely empty, and I made that one room into a home studio. I put mirrors on the wall, and I already had hardwood floor. And so my dance teachers that I started learning, they actually have passed away. They're deceased now. And I thought, well, I could pay this forward by how they included me into all of the dance groups. So I have a Facebook page. It's called Charleston WV Dance. And that's where I advertise all the, if you want to join that, anything that's going on in a dance community, that's where it is. And so my fitness business is called Fitness, Fun, and Friends. That's what I tried to do. It's really like quite a party. So my future is that I want to help people have social interaction and move, okay? These are the 2 things that we need to keep out of nursing homes. I've actually done studies on this. You have to have socialness and you have to move. And both of these businesses do this, the fitness business and also the dance business. And we want to just maintain our well-being. Now, there's 2, if you don't take anything home at all about my speech, I want you to know there's 2 ways of ending your life. Morbidity, okay? There's compressed morbidity and there is expanded morbidity. Compressed is what we want. We want to just be sick for a little wee bit of time, like maybe a week or so, or die in our sleep. Wouldn't that be great? Expanded morbidity is when you're sick for a long time and you have to go to a nursing home and you just don't have much life. We don't want that. The 2 things you can do to prevent that for yourself is social interaction and movement. And so if you were a real true friend to somebody, you would help them get those 2 things. That's the goal of friendship. And when you are sedentary, you have a lot of aches and pains. I don't know, I'm the same way. Like when I first start moving, I feel like, oh, I'm really creaky or whatever. But then after you start moving and get engaged in life, it's like they all go away. So we're here at the farmer's market where there's lots of flowers. And all these flowers have to have wind in order to be strong. Isn't that right? Even in a greenhouse, they move the air around. And there's 2 ways to look at wind on a flower, say. Wind can either be a struggle And what struggle would be is if the flower was trying to stay rigid and not move, and it was fighting against the wind. And you know what rigid is? That's what you are when you're in the casket, right? You're rigid. Or the flowers could look at the wind as that they're dancing in the wind and they're being flexible and moving. Now that's being truly alive. So my story is about how struggle is important, but the way we look at it should be that we're going to make something beautiful out of it. So my brand is Lovely Light Living, Finding Joy in Movement, and I encourage you to find your favorite and introduce it to other people. I do have a website. It's MaryLouiseKing.com, and you can find out a lot more information about me on there. And if you would take a dance lesson from me, I participate in Spree WV. And I wanted to introduce you to that. That's with the Charleston Main Streets. And if you buy anything on the west side, which is where I am, or the east end, you can collect all your receipts up to $300 per quarter. That'd be every 3 months. And you have to have 5 vendors. And all the people at the Capital Market are part of Spree WV. So you can do here, Greens, over on the west side, the east end, you just collect all these receipts. What's so great about it is, after you turn them in, you get $50 cash back in on a Visa card. Isn't that a great plan? So yes, Charleston's where to be, right? Out on the entrance table, I have my receipts, and all the rules for Spree WV are on my receipt. Like when I write my receipt out, you get those rules so that you can take your purchase towards that. And then I also wanted to put a plug in for the Dancing with the Stars. Jim and I are training Doug Harlow and Samantha Carney to be dancers there. That is April 29th. It is already sold out, but I have pamphlets out that if you would want to vote for them, which is a donation to United Way, I have how you can. So we can still get donations. We are not winning on the donations. We have raised, our couple alone has raised more than $10,000, but a couple other couples, thank you, a couple other couples had some people donate like $8,000 or $9,000 just a donation, and then one made $8,000 on one fundraiser. And so we don't have as much as they do, but if you would like to support our couple, I'd love that. And I wanted to thank FestivALL, Jeff Shirley, Mallory, and 3 Things, of course. And I wanted to also thank some Charleston businesses. My outfit comes from Pink Birch, is where my dress came from. My Shop 218 is where I got my earrings. Ivor's Trunk, my bracelet, and my purse. Backstage Bodywear is where I buy all my dance shoes and my fishnet nylons. And Tony the tailor also provided Jim's new jeans. And so may your future involve more body movement, staying in the present moment and being playful, enjoying life fully to the very end. And so I wanted to have the band come up, and then Jim and I will do a little dance for you, a swing. Thank you so much. Jim and I danced an East Coast swing dance to the music that the band played. I had to remove the music because of the copyright rules, but as you can see, we had a great time. And I have to chuckle at myself. I am in my late 60s, and I still have all this energy to dance. I love to dance. And I think I truly live up to the motto of my life and my business, Lovely Light Living, Finding Joy in Movement. So we're almost ready for the finale of this. I'm going to be doing a dip. So just watch to the end and have fun while I'm having fun. Here we go, a little twirl in, up, dip.